What's up everyone, CanCannGrow here. This is a DIY video to show you how you can set up your own DIY drip system to automate your irrigation or fertigation cycles. I'm showing you this mess here because this is the drip system I have set up in my mother room, my propagation. And the reason I'm showing you this one is because I kind of put this one together last minute as I was preparing to leave on vacation. So it really wasn't planned out as well as it could have been, but it does the job. So it's the simplest way to set up in what I found to the drip system. You can obviously use the same concepts and set up something that's more elaborate and definitely a lot cleaner. So first thing you'll need is you'll need a reservoir, you'll need a pump, a water pump, a submersible water pump, you'll need some 1/2-inch tubing, you'll need some spaghetti tubing, and then you'll need a bunch of fixtures that you'll use along the way. So a couple of notes: this is a 40 liter res. The bigger you can go, in my opinion, the better, because less time it's going to be, you're going to have to change out the reservoir less frequently. Oh, the other thing is you're going to need timers. And as far as I like using flexible tubing, although I would like to set up some PVC tubing in here if I ever get around to that, to make it a lot nicer and neater. But with your flexible tubing, I use black tubing for a reason, and the reason for that is I don't want any light getting into any of these tubes. And the reason for that is because any light that gets in could and will likely promote algae growth. Okay, so as far as the pump goes, I'll make it simple. Always get a larger pump than you need. There are calculations you can use to determine how much you need. This is a 396 gallon per hour pump. I actually have two of them in there because I have two drip lines coming in here. One is for the bottom row of plants and one is for the top row of plants. The reason for that is because the flow, you get much less gallons per hour the higher up you go. And it doesn't seem like much, but there's a 3-foot difference between the ones on top and the ones down here. So that, that affects, it's called the head height, and it will affect the total gallons per hour. Again, I'm not going to jump into all those metrics. You can kind of research that or ask some questions. I'll answer it best of my ability. But the higher up you go, the less gallons per hour. So I didn't want to fool around with having to dial everything in so perfectly between the bottom row and the top row. So I just went ahead and put two pumps in there. That's why you see two tubes. Anyways, has to be a submersible pump. This is just like an aquarium pump. You can use a sump pump if you have a much larger system and are feeding a lot more plants. Like I said, this 396, there's 5 sites on this side, 6 sites on this side, just to give you an idea of what it's being used for. At the top, there's there's 10 sites, so 13 there, and then another 2 on this side. I have the flexibility to add and remove sites also. So how to set it up: these pumps come with different fixtures. Obviously I've used the 1/2-inch fixture, and you just put the tube right on and submerge the pump. I run the line out. First thing you're going to do is you're going to run your 1/2-inch and run it wherever you as far as you'd like it. So I'll use this as an example, the bottom one. So that's this one here. I run it into a T. That T just looks like this. Okay, and then we'll talk about this in a second, but I just ran that tubing all the way to the end here because I knew I'd like to run tubes that length, and then the other side runs all the way around there to here. Okay, and then at the very end I just have a cap like this to block off the end of the tube. You can use something like this. This is what I use in my flood trays. You just kind of put, this here, and then you fold this over back into the other side. But what I found is it's not a complete seal, obviously, so it actually does leak a little bit of water out. I don't want that out here, but in my flood trays, that's not a problem. The benefit of using something like this is you can easily take it off if you need to flush the system out. Sorry, I almost dropped my phone. Flush the system out. This one here is kind of permanent, and if you want to take that off, you'll have to cut the tubing, and you keep losing tubing every time you have to cut it off. So just something to take note of. Anyways, so once you run all your 1/2-inch tubing, then you can go ahead and start adding your sites. Your sites are going to be connected. Your sites are going to be this spaghetti tube. I don't know what the size of this is actually. It's probably like I don't know how many millimeters. Let's see. Does it say on there? No. Sorry, it's just standard spaghetti tubing. I get the flexible kind. There's actually one that's a little bit more rigid, but I like the flexible kind. Anyways, figure out where you want all your sites. This is not a problem generally with regards to flow, but if you have like 50 sites, then obviously your first few sites are going to probably get more water than your last few sites. There's things you can do to compensate for that, but I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to talk about that. But anyways, I use these for each these emitters to attach to the 1/2-inch tube. This is not a pressure compensating emitter. As you can see, there's nothing, right down the middle there. I use these because they clog less than the pressure compensating emitters, which is what you'll want to use if you have many sites. It'll make sure that the water flow from the first emitter all the way to the last one is consistent. So, anyways, lost my train of thought there. What you're going to do with this here is you're going to take, this is a punch. This will just punch holes into your tubing. You just take this and you just squeeze it and you punch a hole. I punched a hole here. Just show you an example. That's what it looks like. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your emitter. This one's a screw-on type. So you're going to shove that in the hole and screw it on. Because this is like a nut, you can actually use any type of wrench or ratchet wrench and screw them on. But once you've gotten them on, this is an example, then you put your spaghetti tube, you run your line, and then you can run some type of, this is a stake emitter, a stake dripper, and this just runs through. Spaghetti tube attaches to the end, and the water just comes down here and kind of gets distributed when it comes out the bottom here. And obviously most of the stake goes in. And that's it. There's nothing too complicated, too spectacular about it. Now, I will point out that, again, your pump is probably going to be more powerful than you need. So if that's the case, you can use these, which are ball valve water flow regulators, and basically you can shut it off or you can open it up. So in this position here, it's all wide open, and then in this position it's completely shut off. Then you can adjust the flow just by turning that, and that's how you can regulate. So as you can see with this setup, these plants are much larger and generally need more water than these mothers here, because they're smaller. So I have this shut off quite a bit more, to the point where it's just dripping out, versus this one where it's allowing for more flow and irrigating these mother plants a lot more, because I have this pump on the same timer. Okay, so the timer runs for the same amount of time, but they get a different amount of water based on what I set these valve flows off. Okay, if you're wondering what this blue tube is, this is just a bubbler. Okay, just attached to this air pump. Okay, now your timers. I use these autopilot timers. I think they're great. The reason I use these is because you can, it says right there, you can adjust these to the second, which is awesome for this setup because I use such small pots. I need to adjust them, and what I do is I have them running once a day, and they run for 30 seconds. I've tried them at 20, I've tried them at 22, 24. Right now I have them set at 30, and it seems to dry back where I want it to be with these basically 1 liter air pots. So be mindful when you look at these timers, because I know that there's a lot of them out there where they can only adjust in increments of either half a minute to a minute. That's of no use to me in this setup, because if I ran it for a minute, these would just flood over. Or I'd have to set these to like basically almost no pressure, and then it'd be questionable whether or not this, you know, all the water would make it through from the first emitter to the last one. Okay. Another note to make is that when you set these up, you're gonna want to do something. I just use a very primitive. You can see there's a hole that's punched in there on each of these lines. The reason is, without that hole, and I learned this the hard way, once your timer shuts off and your pump shuts off, if you don't have that hole to allow air in, there becomes a siphon effect. And what happens is it will continue to siphon water and continue to irrigate. I learned this the hard way in one of my tents. I came back the next day and the entire tent was flooded because the entire res continued to pump through, not from the pump, but through a siphon effect. Now, by having that little hole there, and it's obviously not the most elaborate solution, but it does the job, it allows air back into this line and stops the siphon effect. Okay, so take note of that. What else? Honestly, I really don't think that there's anything else. These are just I don't know if I showed this earlier, just some sample fixtures. This fixture allows you, if you, for example, if you didn't cut enough hose, you can attach one line and then attach more hose to the other side. It's just a, like I said, a connector. This is a T connector. This is an elbow if you need to make a corner like I did here, right there. Okay. That's about it. And I use these T connectors in my tents, in my flood, in my drip trays for the flower room. Sorry, it's not focusing, but allows me to flood the Rockwell caps on either side evenly. And that's about it, man. So I'm not sure if there's anything that I missed. I think I got all the parts in there. Nothing too crazy here. Okay, if you have any questions, post them in the comment sections below. I'll answer any questions as I can and to the best of my ability. If you like what you saw here, hit the thumbs up. Really helps the channel out, helps me out, helps the growth out. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, check out some of my other videos and hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way you don't miss any of the updates that I put up. And for everyone else who's already subscribed and part of Team CanCan, thank you so much for your ongoing support. I will make another announcement. I'm going to start going live again. I know I've been slacking on that, but I'd love to hang out with you guys again in the garden. So that's about it for this video. Until the next video and the next update, this is CanCannGrow signing out. Cheers.